less time than ever in your ad account. Joining us is Trent Kurth of Common Thread Collective. Welcome, Trent. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm good. How you doing?
Awesome. So I see we've got some folks up on the chat. Awesome. We'll give a few minutes while people join. We've got Matt Amf jumping in. So where am I catching you in today, Trent?
I'm in Orange County, California.
Awesome. So I'm here in Tucson, Arizona. I went out for my lunchtime run. It was only 106 degrees. So those of you joining from the other hemisphere, that's about like 42 degrees. So painfully hot. So you'll see me sipping on a LaCroix or a Starbucks along the way. I've done a 0 to 30 day challenge. So what I do every day is I'll jump in and I'll ask Siri, hey Siri, give me a random number between 0 and 312. And that's the distance I do. So today was 1.61 miles.
Wait,
so I had
what's
to get up
the
there.
number? What's the number range you put it between?
I do 312 because it's a 5K run.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I've gone, so I'm looking for a net average of about 1.5 miles a day. And that's on top of my typical training routine.
Nice. How many days are you in?
So I'm on day 17 and I've only averaged 1.1 miles. So I'm afraid of like the last 2 weeks are going to be like 2.8 miles, 3.12 miles. I'll run like 10 5Ks in a row.
Yeah. Siri's just being nice to you.
Absolutely. I've done 3 months now where I've done different exercises. I did a burpee month. I did a push-up month. The push-ups, we did 0 to 100. So I tried to sneak in some cardio.
Yeah, good call on the cardio. I feel like I've been lacking with the coronavirus. It's hit my workout routine pretty hard.
Absolutely. So we'll give folks another couple minutes to join. Okay. Hey, we have some more folks joining in the chat. And it says Corona cardio. Yeah, COVID strong. Nice. Let me know in the chat where folks are joining in from as well. We've got Matt from Orange County as well jumping in. Sydney, Australia, Gold Coast, Australia. Beautiful there. You been to Australia, Trent?
I have not. It's on the bucket list.
You're going to be huge in Australia in the next 40 minutes after your content shared. You'll have many folks welcoming you down. We've got Sydney, Australia as well. So we've got about 3 minutes, 30 seconds in. I want to take a bit of time again, Trent, to thank you for joining us in our Bean Ninjas free training, our e-commerce masterclass for July, how to run Facebook ads profitably and spend less time than ever in your ad account. For those of you that will ask, I'm sure Trent will be okay with sharing slides out to folks after. We will also be recording and sharing this rebroadcast to folks that have signed on. So moving along, I want for folks to jump in. The poll section is just below this video. So if you could scroll down, jump into the poll, share with us how much does your team spend on Facebook ads each month? So we've got a few ranges there, 0 to 5K, 5K to 10K, 10K to 25K, 25K to 50, and then 50K plus. If you could jump into the chat, into the poll section below, jump in and share. Awesome. Looks like we've got most folks in here joining in are at the $0 to $5,000 per month. Next, what's your annual revenue? So again, we have in here a number of ranges, and I see folks already jumping into our second poll question. So we've got 0 to 100,000, 100,000 to 500,000, 500,000 to $1 million, 1 million to 5 million, and then 5 million plus annually. So it's about a split. We've got currently a third, 0 to 100, 100 to 500, and then 500 to $1 million. So this will be great. I know I've previewed Trent's deck here. He's going to really take you through an understanding of the concepts that go into building ad campaigns. I'll share with you guys a little bit about myself. So I'm Wayne. I'm here at B Ninjas. I'm our Chief Operating Officer, as well as our resident e-commerce expert. B Ninjas helps 6- and 7-figure e-commerce businesses with their bookkeeping, financial reporting, education in zero. We provide profit first consulting, but also growth coaching. So business coaching, utilizing our unique skills and understanding, supporting hundreds of customers within their financial management and knowing their numbers. We are also Xero's Bookkeeping Partner of the Year for 2019. So until they award the 2020 candidate, we're going to continue to celebrate that as it's an accolade we're quite proud of. So I mentioned a little bit at the introduction, we're here with Trent Kurth. Trent is a paid media manager at CommonThread Collective. He oversees a team of media buyers and executes Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns for direct-to-consumer e-commerce clients, totaling over 300 million plus in ad spend each year. Trent is based in California here in the US. I want to make sure everyone sticks around until the end. We have some epic free gifts that we're going to share with you. So please, we'll cover questions at the end. But along the way, if there's something that comes up, there's a question manager where you posted your poll results. Go into the question manager if something comes about, and go ahead, please share with us any questions that you have. So Trent, if you can go ahead, pull up your slides. I'll stop my sharing.
Here we go. All right, cool. Can everyone see my screen? All right, beautiful.
We've got you up now.
All right, so here we are. This is something I love talking about, which is how to run Facebook ads profitably and spend less time than ever in your ad account. So this is going to be going through a structure that we run at the agency, CommonThread Collective. We run some form of the structure across all of our different ad accounts. And it's really a framework that I'm going to be taking you guys through. It's great. It seems like most of you guys are kind of starting out in Facebook ads. So this is perfect material about how you should be thinking about your ad account and how to get started, and really what you need to be kind of looking at and what levers to be pulling. Let me get into here. So just a little bit about us. So we can consider ourselves a growth agency. So we partner with direct-to-consumer brands on growing their business. And this is our growth equation. So this is what we think about and all the variables that come into growing a brand and business. So kind of going through this, and this is something in our office, which we used to go into every day, which unfortunately now we're all remote. So we had this in big letters in our office, and we looked at it every day. And it actually, the old formula was visitors times conversion rate times lifetime value equals revenue. And this is our new updated 2020 equation. And that is visitors times conversion rate times cash multiplier minus your variable cost equals profit. So something we found that was really important is that the important metric to be looking at when we're partnering with a brand or business is how much profit they're taking home every day. That's really the important part. Doesn't matter if you're doing $100 million in revenue if you're losing money, right? And just going through this is really the main levers you can pull when you're thinking about your ad account and how to run it profitably that you need to be looking at, right? How many people are you driving to your website? How well are you converting those people? And what is their cash multiplier? So this is a term we kind of came up with because you see a lot of people and agencies now talking about this lifetime value metric, right? Like how much is your customer worth? But really the important part is most businesses, if you said, oh, well, I can acquire a customer today and lose money on them, but I know they're going to double or triple in value over the next couple of years. Most people can't sit around and wait, a year or 2 years for that profit to come in, right? Most people don't have the runway to be waiting and sitting for the lifetime value. So we kind of came up with this term cash multiplier. And really what we think about that, how we define that is by a shorter time window of lifetime value. what is the value of that customer? Like how much is it going to increase over a certain time window? So for this, we usually, for most clients, we use a 60-day cash multiplier. So how much is your customer going to increase in value over 60 days? And that's kind of that's a rough window. It could change. It changes business to business. You might have a slightly longer one. You might have a slightly shorter one. Maybe you are a business that can wait a year for the full value of that customer to come in. And then also removing that variable cost. So how much it costs to manufacture your product to get it into the hands of your customer, right? So this is really important to kind of just have an idea of this growth equation going into Facebook ads, because all of these variables are so important to your business. So it's always important to be mindful of these different parts and how you can pull them and improve them to kind of improve your performance on Facebook. So the most important thing before you get started on Facebook is having clear targets. So this is something like before you ever spend $1 on Facebook, it's really, really important to understand what kind of CPA you need and what kind of ROAS target you need, right? And so I'm going to go through this a couple slides, and then I'm going to pull up some sheets that I'm going to make available after. One of them is a profitability doc where you can put in your COGS, credit card fees, shipping costs, and all of that. And it's going to give you you're going to be able to you can play with your ROAS, and it'll give you different CPA targets. And we'll kind of go through that a little bit more at the end, but it's really important that you have a clear target before you start spending money on Facebook. I've seen it so many times where people go, oh, I was just going to test out Facebook. I, started with a few creatives. Like, I'm not exactly sure, maybe like a 2x return would be good for me. And that's just a really quick way to lose money. If you want to win on Facebook, you need to have really clear defined targets. And something I would say is, on this, so it says like average order value. And as we go through this is, we'll talk about this more, but how we think about our campaign structure is around, like different customer segments and what their lifetime value is. But I would encourage you, as you start running your Facebook ads, is to know, what your targets and CPAs need to be for different customers that you're selling to, right? So it's really important that if you have different SKUs, let's say you have 10 different SKUs on your website, that you know exactly what kind of targets you need for each product, right? It's good to have a general target, but it's more like the more accurate and defined you can be with your targets, like the more profitably you can run your campaigns, and the clear understanding you can have of where you're winning, right? Because a lot of times we'll see that, like you might have one product that's super profitable for you, like has really good margins, but you might have another one that is not nearly as profitable, and you need to get a much higher ROAS on that product. So it's really important that you understand the different, your different COGS across your SKUs if you have multiple, as well as offers is too. Like we look at our lifetime value in different segments. Like if you're running a big coupon or sale, those customers might, have a different lifetime value than those of some who's like an evergreen purchaser. So, and we'll circle back to this sheet, and I'll run you through kind of how it works and how you can use it. And thanks for dropping the acronym definition. Sorry about that. I've been speaking in this language for a long time. So if there's anything you don't know what I'm saying, feel free to ask a question, and I can clarify for you guys. So diving into our consolidated account structure. So I'm curious because I know a lot of people put that 0, I think, to 500 range. So have you guys built out ad accounts before? Like, do you know like the basics of, what your structure looks like? Like if it's the 0 to 500, are you actually spending currently, or have you tested it? Okay. Yes. So really we're going to be going through this framework. Yes. Okay, perfect. So it sounds like most of you guys, I know I talked to Wayne and he said that I think maybe a month ago or something, you guys went through kind of a basics of setting up all the different parts. So this is really more how to think about your ad account and like what levers are important to be pulling and where to be spending your time. Because really like the most important thing, especially like, so I manage a team of media buyers, And the biggest thing is I want them focusing on the levers, the highest impact tasks that can increase performance, right? So when I think about the things that can make increase in performance, when I go back to that equation, the growth equation, right? I want my buyers focusing on the ad copy, the creative, the messaging, where we're sending traffic. I don't want them in ad accounts turning buttons on and off and doing things like audience testing or, trying to, manage budgets every day, right? Like the more you're touching your ad account, the more you're just kind of throwing off the algorithm. We really like to make minimal amounts of changes and set up a structure that allows the algorithm to work best and that gives Facebook the data it needs to optimize properly. Like this is the biggest thing. So I'll be diving into this, but really, so this is just, we'll be going into kind of more of the framework. This is just what one campaign would look like. So the main thing is we're always kind of running conversion campaigns or catalog campaigns for DPAs. We always are taking advantage of the campaign budget optimization, and we're always using cost controls. And inside our ads, inside these campaigns, right, we usually have some sort of variation of these different interests or targeting options. So one that we always use is broad, which is, I think, very misleading. So usually when we set up this ad set, it doesn't have any targeting in it. It'll only have exclusions. And basically, I think a lot of people think when you say, oh, I'm not going to put targeting on an ad set, that you're just like, you're targeting everyone, in that geography that you're targeting, whether it's United States, Australia. Like people are afraid that by not having any targeting, you're just letting, you're hitting everyone. But really, you're really letting the pixel, the Facebook pixel, go find people. You're giving it an open ocean with lots of opportunity. Your pixel's trained based off sale data to go find more customers, right? So you're just giving it a big pool of people to go, show ads to that it thinks will convert. And then usually another interest or another ad set we'll have is an interest stack. So all the stack means is what we'll do is, like, let's say if we're selling CrossFit clothing, we'll just do an interest stack. That's a bunch of different interests. We really don't want to split them out. So this is one of the biggest mistakes I see in ad accounts, is just lots of ad sets with lots of very similar interests, right? If I open up a campaign and I see like CrossFit and then, CrossFit gyms and then all separated out, it's like, why? We have no idea how Facebook defines an audience. So by trying to separate them out, you're really not doing anything. It makes you feel like you might have control over that targeting, but I'd rather just stack them all together into categories and versus having them split out. What is UBA? Not sure. Did I say DPA maybe? So DPA, I think, is what you mean, but that's a dynamic product ad. So that utilizes a Shopify catalog or Facebook catalog that's connected to Shopify, and it'll dynamically retarget. So I can talk about that a little bit more later on. And then another audience we'll have here is this prospecting, so lookalike stack. So that's basically where we just build lookalikes off of different events. So let's say purchase, add to cart, maybe Instagram engagers, building lookalikes off of good audiences, and then we stack them together similar to the interest stack. And then also what we do is we put our remarketing audience inside that CBO, and then all we do is assign one budget to that whole campaign, and we let Facebook kind of dictate where it's going to spend its money. And the important part is, and we're going to get into this more, is this is more of a framework. So kind of jumping, so like we'll have a lot of different variations of this, and this is kind of a framework for options of what you can do. And this will make more sense as I kind of move along. But the most important rule is your budget to ad set ratio. So whenever you're thinking about your structure, the number one thing you need to be concerned about is how much budget you have and how many ad sets you should have in relation to that budget. So this is by far the biggest mistake I see in ad accounts is spread too thinly across ad sets. So Facebook needs 50 conversions or purchases a week to properly optimize. So you have to think out, and I'll be giving you this calculator where you can plug in your daily budget and kind of your current CPA that you're getting, and then it will give you a max number of ad sets that you should have. So in this example right here, you can see that if you have a daily budget of $2,000, which is a lot, that's about 60 grand a month, right? And your CPA is $50. Let's say you're getting $50 purchases. The max number of ad sets you should have in your ad account is 5.71. So 5. Or 5 or 6 at the most, right? But I think this is where a lot of people they try testing all these audiences out, or they try, they keep trying different ad sets and building out new things. But really, what you need to do is be patient and let Facebook optimize and give it the budget it needs to optimize properly, right? If you're only giving an ad set 2 or 3 or 4 purchases a week, you're going to get stuck in learning limited. It's not going to optimize properly. It has no time to learn and figure out who to show ads to. So if you take anything away from this webinar today, this is the most important thing, is that your budget to ad set ratio needs to be correct. You need to give Facebook the correct budget to optimize and work correctly. If you can't do that, then, stay off of Facebook. If you've got a, super high CPA and you can only spend, $100 a day, it's not worth your time. Facebook's never going to optimize properly. So I think this is the biggest thing. And as we go through talking about the structure and how to build it out, always keep this in the back of your mind. If you think, I want to build a new campaign around this, or I want to have this many audiences, like if we go back to the structure here, if you use that budget to ad set calculator, and it says you can only have one ad set, just pick one of these. You don't need all 3. It's going to give you kind of a wider pool of people, but I would rather have one ad set that can optimize properly than 3 that can't optimize properly. So kind of moving along here. So why this consolidated account structure? So the main reason is it reduces time spent in your ad account. It removes a lot of manual decision-making where errors are made. It allows you to focus on high-impact work like creatives and messaging. It reduces time spent in learning phase and learning limited. And I'm curious, so out of people who are running ads right now, have you looked at this learning phase graph that is in your account overview tab? And if so, do you have a lot of ad sets stuck in learning limited? Because I think this is something I see frequently, is a lot of ad sets stuck in learning limited. And our main goal of a consolidated account structure is to get things out of learning phase and get them out of learning limited. Nope, never seen it. Thank you. Yeah. So this is huge, and this is a big thing to take away, is that for our account, like anytime I go audit a new account or we're looking at a potential client, like this is the first thing I look at, is how much of their account is in learning phase. Our target internally is less than 30% of ad spend in learning phase. So this is our biggest goal. And this is like, especially as you guys being business owners or parts of teams, is that, time is limited, and we know we can only focus on so many things at once. So by being able to focus on things like your creatives, like your ad copy, like the conversion rate on your website, like offers, those things have much more impact on your overall return in your ad account than things like audience testing or adjusting budgets, or all these small tweaks that you can make in ad accounts, turning ads on and off. Facebook is incredibly smart. Its AI works incredibly well. If you leverage cost controls and you give it options, it can find the right people to show your ads to. And that's what I push all of my media buyers to do, is to lean on the algorithm to remove their manual decision making out of the equation, and to focus on high impact work, like creating new copy, working on the landing pages, making new creatives. Those things have much more, like a much bigger impact on your performance, right? I've never seen an ad account go from a 1x return to a 2x return from changes made in the ad account. It's always going to be something like creative, copy, messaging, offers. Those are the things that make big differences and will get you to success, not tweaking your ad account. So going on here, so just kind of going through some of our basic setups. So I won't spend too much time on this because I know it's that kind of, you guys have gone through this in the past, but so we always set up our campaigns for conversion objectives, unless it's a DPA, which is a dynamic product ad. So that we use for remarketing, but that just means that'll be a catalog objective. And that's a dynamic ad that will show people products based on what they're looking at. So we're always using campaign budget optimization, which is essentially just going to, dictate where you spend across those ad sets. So you don't have to manually decide what ad sets and what those budgets should be on the different audiences. And then 95% of our campaigns are probably cost cap. So cost cap just is, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with it, if you guys are using bid strategies, but essentially cost cap allows you to say, like, here's how much I'm willing to pay for a purchase, which is really important because the worst thing you can do in an ad account is spend bad money. And that's the biggest thing we're trying to prevent, which is bad spend. So cost controls allow us to say, hey, Facebook, this is how much I'm willing to pay for a purchase. If you can't find a purchase at that, then I don't want to spend my money, right? So this is a huge part in allowing media buyers to kind of remove themselves a little bit more from the situation. They still are kind of keeping tabs on everything, but they don't have to worry about managing the budgets and seeing if performance is bad one day, because the cost controls really help, curb that bad spend, or, make sure that there's, you're not spending bad money on ads. So, and when we think about campaign organization, so we'll get into this a little bit more when I dive into the spreadsheet, but really, like, we organize our campaigns. When we have a campaign, we organize them by things like SKU, offer, what geo we're targeting, and angle. So whenever we think about, like, how many campaigns we want, or, how we're organizing those campaigns, we really think about it as, do we want to look at that cohort of customers? Is their LTV different than, let's say, a different campaign we want to run? So just a few examples. So Bamboo Earth is one of our brands we run. So they have a skin quiz funnel. So this is like a type of offer, right? So we try to get people in, we try to get them to take a quiz, and then we recommend the product. But it's a separate lander with separate messaging around it. So that is isolated in its own campaign. And we look at the LTV of those customers different than, let's say, just a regular campaign that's running year round with just kind of some basic, or a different product ad in there, or subscription. So this is another one. A lot of brands have subscriptions, but a subscription customer has a much different LTV than, let's say, someone who comes in a sale. So when we've got people who are running subscriptions, we'll run a subscription campaign, and we isolate that by itself. So I hope this is kind of making sense, but we really like to isolate campaigns and launch new campaigns when we have different creatives, messaging, like offers and things like that. Especially for things like clothing. Like when you look at a clothing brand, you don't want to have all of your products in one campaign. Like the LTV customer, or the LTV of, like, let's say, a female versus a male is going to be very different. So we want to make sure we're isolating those into their own campaigns, like having female jeans, male jeans, female tees, male tees, right? Because one, all those SKUs have different COGS on them, and they're going to have different LTVs. So that's how we think about when we start organizing our campaigns, how we're doing it. And like I said, this might be kind of overwhelming, but the number one rule is make sure you have enough budget to support the ad sets you're trying to build. And if you are just getting started, I would recommend just getting started with, let's say, one product. Take your bestseller, build a campaign around it, and just start there. And then as you get those kind of going and off the ground, then you can continue to launch additional campaigns. And then on the ad level, or do we skip ad set? Okay, ad set. So we always optimize for purchase, and we always use automatic placements. And then as you can see, here's where the cost control is, where you would get that number from, that's essentially your CPA target that you can put in there. So we're always optimizing for purchase. We always tell Facebook what we want to do. And then, you set your cost cap at your CPA target, which you can get from the profitability sheet. And then we always use automatic placement. So this is something else I want to hit on, which is just making sure you guys are always letting Facebook giving all the resources it has. It's easy to look at a breakout and say, oh, well, Instagram's doing better. I'm going to try to target that by itself. But it's just better to give Facebook more options to hit people. Because usually when you isolate any single placement, it's just going to drive up your CPMs and kind of like, or, you'll see that there's not enough volume there. So, we like to give the algorithm as many choices as possible. So, and then at the ad level, just one thing I want to highlight at the ad level is customizing by placement. So usually, for most of our creatives, when we create them, we like to cut, either a 1x1 still or 4x4 video, and then you can customize for stories. So stories have really cheap, well, not really cheap. They're cheaper than IG feeds or Facebook feeds. But the IG story is a great placement. And if you can create 2 versions of whatever creative you're making and customize, you can customize at the ad level so it shows and takes up that full screen and doesn't just place a 1x1 image in the story. That can give you more delivery in that story placement, which is just a little something we do on all of our accounts, which is super helpful and will get you guys kind of more delivery. So kind of want to dive into some of these sheets really quick. And I think we're 30 minutes in, so kind of get going on this. But going through the cost breakdown, like I said, I'll give you guys these sheets so you can have them. But so this is your profit analysis sheet. So this will kind of give you guys can plug in your numbers. And like I said, I would encourage you guys to do this by SKU or whatever specifically you guys are going to start advertising. And if you guys are getting kind of off the ground in that 0 to 500 range, I would take, what's my best product? What's my best seller? What gives them customers the best experience? If it's their first touch point with my brand, and start there. So you can kind of plug in, what the average order value with that SKU is, or what the price of it is. So let's say it's $50, and then you can kind of break out these percentages here. It's going to spit out the cost. And all you basically just fill in the highlighted greens, and then it's going to give you these. And then this plugs into this sheet. So as you change stuff on here, it will change the things over here. But as you can see, this is really important as far as kind of, you can see where your net profit is as you change different things. And then it'll give you the CPA target, which you can use for your cost controls. And I think like the interesting thing about this sheet and something to look at is also as you scale, sometimes you can kind of reduce your actual ROAS and CPA. Oh, well, you can pay a higher CPA and have a lower ROAS as you scale. So this is just something important to think about. Like when you think about the growth equation, like especially if we know we have good LTV on our customers, like we want to acquire as many customers as possible. So it's like if I could be in either of these scenarios, like I would rather have 1,600 new customers come into my funnel than 300, even if I'm only making slightly, like a little bit more money, if that makes sense. So this is a great calculator to plug in, and just even if you just want to get those baseline targets, it's the most important thing before you start going on Facebook is just have a clear target set and know when you're winning versus when you're not winning. Because if you could just get on Facebook and you don't know what ROAS you need or what CPA you need to be hitting, and you're kind of just flying blind, that's a recipe for disaster. So, and then kind of diving into this other sheet. So this first tab will have the ad set calculator, so you can plug in your daily budget, like how much you want to spend a day. Let's say $100 a day. Maybe your CPA is $20, or you can play with different things here, and kind of see like how many ad sets can I have. So this is super helpful as well. Make sure you set your budgets realistically and realize how many ad sets you can afford to have when you go build your structure. So jumping into these, you can see there's a few different things here. So, and like I said, this is really a framework. And a lot of our campaigns, we, might be international. We might have a few SKUs. We might have a few offers. So there's different funnels built out. But really looking like, so this is how we organize. This is a basic campaign. But if we were to look at, let's say, a SKU structure, we would have product funnel number 1. These would be the ad sets within it. And then we'd have product funnel number 2. These would be that, and then product funnel number 3, right? So you can organize these in different ways, but just think about when you're organizing them, like, just think about that organizing. We think about it in the way of anytime we want to look at that cohort and see how their LTV differentiates against another cohort, we usually break that into a separate campaign. So I hope this is all making sense. I know this is kind of a lot of stuff. And I think one other thing to highlight is when you are building product funnels, or let's say offer funnels, it's really important that when you go build your marketing audience, build it off of that SKU page or that content ID, right? So you want to be retargeting people. Let's say this is a skirt funnel. You want to be remarketing skirt ads to people who actually looked at the skirt. You don't want to do a broader marketing to everyone on your website, right? You want to be really, laser focused on who you're showing those ads to. So as you build out these different funnels, you want to make sure, like, okay, I know this is a male jean funnel. I want to show them more male jeans. I don't want to show them a skirt. So make sure you're building those audiences correctly in the audience tool. Cool. So I think that's about all I got. So I think we can hop into questions if we have them. Do you want me to stop sharing, or?
If you stop sharing, I'll bring up my slides once again. And here we are. So we want to know in the chat to the side of this window, what was the most valuable piece of knowledge bombs that were dropped on you today from Trent? Go ahead, share here in the chat. And we have some questions coming up in the chat. And make sure as I'm covering them that I capture everything. Am says, thanks, Trent. Definitely a different way of thinking. The more you're touching your ad account, the more you're throwing off the algorithm. Let the Facebook algorithm work its magic. Focus on the levers.
Yep, love that. And that's so true. I mean, honestly, I work with very high-level media buyers all day. And even, like, I think one of the most detrimental things you can do is be super emotional when you're ad buying. It's kind of like stock trading almost. One of our golden rules that I have for all my media buyers is don't be an emotional buyer. So by setting up your account this way, you can really, hand over a lot of the decision making to Facebook, so you don't open your ad account and see it looks a little bit lower than normal and start touching things, because really that's just how you mess it up. Fluctuations are normal day to day, and you really want to make sure you aren't touching things and throwing it into that learning limited and affecting the learning that's going on.
Yeah, and we had Derek jump into the chat too, and he said looking at the learning phase graph was kind of the gold that he took from today's session.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Honestly, anytime I audit an account, that's the first thing I look at, is because if you see a like 50, 80%, 90%, I can already identify that that's a huge issue for the ad account if it's underperforming.
Excellent. So we'll jump into some of the questions now. Again, if you have a question, jump down below. You'll see there's polls, and then there's also an option for you to post questions. So if you will, just please go share questions in the questions manager below. I'm going to change our layout here to bring Trent and I back up.
Yeah, I'm seeing some other ones. So let's see. How do you recommend scaling ad budgets for successful campaigns? Yeah, so that's an easy one. Like, once you get something that's working, like the safest way is probably like a 20% increase. So if you see, let's say you get one of these funnels built out, you see it working really well, just continue to bump that budget day over day. 20% is always a safe call. If you're launching something and it's just absolutely smashing, like you can get a little bit more aggressive. Like the more aggressive you get with raising budgets, the more, the riskier it becomes as far as how aggressive you're scaling. So if you see something working, you can bump it that 20% and do that kind of like every other day and monitor the performance. But the good thing about really, another benefit of cost controls is you don't have to be worried as much with bad performance. So when you're using cost controls, it's really going to limit the variability in performance. So if you were to look at an ad account that is on lowest cost with no cost controls, you'll see the performance will be very up and down, right? It'll be kind of all over the place, which is normal. If you look at an account that's cost control, you're going to see the performance be much steadier, but you'll see the spend be more variable. But I would much rather take the spend to be variable than the performance.
Absolutely. So I'll share with you some of the other questions we have in the chat manager. We had our first question: when stacking interest for targeting, is there a max number of interest that you recommend?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really matter. I think really, and how I think about interests is really I want to categorize them. And so really when I break things out, it's it doesn't really matter how many you put, but if you put something let's say, I think bodybuilding or the gym, those audiences are going to be massive. They're going to be 50, 60 million people, right? So you can keep adding more in there. But if you just are adding smaller ones that are almost, 1 or 2 million people, that's a specific protein brand or something, it's probably inclusive of that larger gym fitness circle, if that makes sense. So, but there's no limit. We'll throw a bunch in there, but usually we just like to get it pretty big, give the algorithm room to go find people.
Awesome. Our next question was, how long does it typically take to get out of the learning phase? And does Facebook base this on time or budget spent on ads?
Yeah, it's both. So it's just how much data you're feeding into it. So we've seen it, I've seen ad sets get out of a learning phase in a day with big budgets, right? So it can get out of it really quickly. But it really comes into that combination of how much you're spending and how many, conversion events you're getting. So if you get 50 purchases in a day, it's probably going to get out of learning phase. If it takes you a week, it might take you that week to get out. So it's a factor of both.
Awesome. So our next question from Headley: how do you handle creative refresh on an ad? Do you duplicate the ad set or change the existing ad?
Yeah, so great question on so how we handle ads is usually and this is similar to kind of ad sets. The more budget you have, the more variables you can have. So usually we found the sweet spot of ads in an ad set is kind of 6. But you don't want to start with 6 if you've got a really limited budget, right? And how we handle that is, so we usually dupe out. We never change. Once something is built, we never really change that. And we don't dupe the ad sets either. So what we'll do is we'll just introduce new creative into that ad set. So let's say we've got our main ad set. We've got 3 or 4 creatives. What we'll do is then add in a new ad into that ad set with the new creative in there. And when we're using cost controls, we don't really turn ads on and off either unless they aren't getting delivery and spend. Because with the cost caps, if you aren't getting spend after, let's say, 3 or 4 days, then Facebook's basically saying that it can't get that desired CPA with that ad. So at that point, we'll turn it off and then introduce a new ad or new creative. So I think that answers your question.
Awesome. And I think you touched upon this already. So how do you recommend scaling ad budgets for successful campaigns? And that may have been the first question we touched upon.
Yeah. So I just hit on that. So I think, just increasing it slowly over time. So that 20%, daily is fine and safe. But with the cost controls, you don't have to worry as much. And usually if I'm thinking about scaling something, I go as aggressive as I am over performance, if that makes sense. So if let's say I need a 2x, I'm getting a 10x, and like it's been that way for a week. I know I can get really aggressive with how much I up my budget. But if you want to be safe, like a good 20%, that's a good rule of increasing your budget kind of day over day. So.
Awesome. So if there are questions, we're going to share a special offer from the team at Common Thread Collective and also Admission, their paid member community. They are offering first an account structure Google Sheet free to those of you that have registered or actually reach out to the landing page. We have a link provided here, plus $100 off the Admission membership. If you could, Trent, a little bit of an intro to Admission.
Yep, for sure. So this is kind of our community and training built around what we learn at the agency. So I think it's one of the best places to learn and connect with other business owners. So what we do is basically take everything that we learn at the agency and we build that into a training for people who are trying to grow their businesses. So it's got everything from how to run your Facebook ads, how to determine LTV, to how, and another cool thing is we also run our own brands in one of our sister companies. So we take all our learnings from that about things like how to build landing pages. And all of that is inside Admission. So we have a Slack group. Some of the best things is the support. So we have great support. You get to kind of interact with all of our media buyers, people at our company, and the community. So I know Wayne's part of the community. We love having them there, but you get to work with lots of other small business owners who are working on growing their businesses as well, which I think is one of the best parts is, getting to work with everyone else, hearing other people's struggles, how they're figuring them out and things like that. So,
yeah, what I found exciting is that not only are the members ad managers from other agencies, but you also have brand owners that are looking to leverage and increase their knowledge through the community and also use it as kind of a learning environment. So there's a lot of case studies that are shared. There's a lot of opportunities for folks to add questions if they're frustrated or not sure what's going on in the ad accounts that they've set up. You often see them post the kind of the reel. And within that, you have folks jumping in and sharing, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried? No, I'm seeing that as well. Sometimes when we're out operating on our own, we tend to think that what's occurring is an emergency. And until we get a feel for what's occurring with everyone else around us, it may bring some peace of mind or comfort to know, all right, I'm not in a position on my own. There are others seeing the exact same thing as what I'm seeing, and you have an ability to have a team to help address those concerns with you. I'm in the community as well, so there's an opportunity to ask questions around different principles and methodologies and understanding. Do you have the fuel, the budget available within your current pricing structure and your cost of goods to fund campaigns? So there's a lot of great learnings, a lot of great insights, case studies that are shared. And I'm just grateful that there's a chance for me to participate in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to share an offer too. So get cash confident. We want to help clear up as much as we can your ability to spend safely on ads each month. So schedule a free Know Your Numbers audit call, typically a $249 value, free. Also, jump into the link shared here. We have a free e-commerce toolkit that's available that has cash flow planning templates, inventory management, forecasting templates, as well as tools to help you ensure that you have your zero file properly set up, and also some tips and tricks along setting appropriate timelines to manage your financials. I want to give you guys a brief preview of our next e-commerce masterclass. We're doing a panel discussion, inventory management for e-commerce, next Tuesday here in the States. Wednesday morning, if you're in Australia, we have our friends from Deer Systems, Cloudscape Technologies, and also Inventory Planner that are going to help you understand inventory management. I know it is the most critical area to get your head right. If you don't know your cost structure, or you can't make money if you don't have product to sell. So jump into our panel discussion next week. Get registered at the link provided here, bninjas.com/events. Thank you to those that are jumping in. Nice work. Thanks, guys. Again, if there are questions or folks want the slides, is it best for them just to go to that landing page that you shared?
Yeah, I don't know if the slides are on there, but if I can send them over to you if you want.
Perfect. So we'll have them available. So touch base with me, Wayne at bninjas.com. Thank you so much, Trent, for joining us today on this month's masterclass.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Hey, guys.